Welcome to AI Meets API, where we explore the tools and technologies reshaping enterprise development. On today's episode, we're joined by Ashish Thusu, an expert from Curitech AI. We'll unpack how Curitech is using specialized AI agents to supercharge MuleSoft development, integration, and migration. Hosting today's show is Ajay Konda. Take it away, Ajay.
Thanks, Amy. Welcome to the podcast, Ashish. Great to have you.
Thanks, Ajay.
Uh,
Great to be here.
to kick the things off, what is QDI? Who is it built for?
Curitech AI is an AI company. It's a startup. It's been about 1.5 years old, and we build software development agents primarily for IT engineering. So it's built for IT engineers, primarily those folks who are building integrations in enterprise integration platforms like MuleSoft. So for them, we build these software development agents with the aim of accelerating development around MuleSoft,
Mm-hmm.
whether tasks around coding, around testing, and so on and so forth. So that's what Curitech AI is all about. It's a very exciting new product, and a lot of people are using it and getting a lot of value out of it.
Great. First thing that comes to my mind, right? There is a lot of hype around AI co-pilots. What makes QDTech's coding agents different from the co-pilots?
That's a great question, Ajay, and we get asked about it quite a lot. So the world has really known co-pilots, but coding agents are different. So the coding agents' vision really is to go from a design spec to full-blown code.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about co-pilots, so think of coding agents like your junior co-engineer who's working alongside you,
Mm-hmm.
and you give that co-engineer a design spec, and that co-engineer goes away and builds the entire project for you, and then comes back and say, "Here's my, Mr. Senior Engineer, here's my project. How did I do? Can you fix some mistakes, a few things here and there, and then it's ready to go." Co-pilots are different. Co-pilots are within an IDE. You are an engineer, whether junior or senior, you're building code, and then there is this assistant which keeps telling you, "Hey, here is a code snippet. You can fix it. Here is a recommended snippet," and so on and so forth. So they operate at very different planes. Agents are, and they can, and we wrote a blog post about this some time back. They kind of complement each other. You can use agents to get a head start of the code, and then you can bring that code into an IDE and finesse it with copilots. That's really the difference, and this design point has a lot of implications. So it's easy to come up with generic copilots because the work that the copilots are doing are in snippets, and there's a lot of context that the engineer is providing. But it's very difficult to build generic agents, software development agents. So that's why you have to focus and specialize, and that's what Curitech has done. We are specialized on integrations. We are specialized on a platform like MuleSoft, and in that situation, you can actually build out this vision where you can go from a full spec to full code for that platform. And we have had to build a lot of this can't be just done by, hey, here's an LLM call, or submit this to chat GPT or submit this to GitHub Copilot. It can't be done that way, and that's the real value of these agents, and that is the difference between the agents and copilots. But they kind of work hand in hand. You can use the agents to generate the code, and then you can use the copilots to finesse it.
Okay. The more I understand, like co-pilots are more like a guide, and where agents is like actual workers who get the actual things done. Is that the right
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly, you hit it right on the head. Exactly. That's how you should think of it. Co-pilots are your assistants and guides that can help you navigate the code and do things. Agents are just like your co-workers who can help you build the whole code.
Can you give us an overview of different types of agents you are offering? When I looked at your website, I see that there are a lot of agents and information. Can you give a brief about various agents and why do we need to have various agents?
A great question again, Ajay. So if you're a practitioner, you know this better than me. In, let's say, MuleSoft development, for example, or in, for that matter, in any software development, there are many phases and many tasks and many things that a software developer does. It could be writing design specs. It could be, generating API specs. It could be actually writing the code and the transformation. It could be from that code, testing it out, generating the test cases or test scenarios. It could be after I've done all the code, creating the documentation, and so on and so forth. So what we have done at Curitech AI is for all of these tasks, we have created these high-level agents. So broadly speaking, We have four main categories of agents: coding agents, which focus on creating from the spec either the flow code for MuleSoft or data view transformations from the spec. And then testing agents, which can take all those things, all these things that have been created, and create test scenarios, create unit tests for it, create data for those tests. So those are our testing agents. Then we have agents which help you document this code. You could have code which you have written or with these agents have written, and you can turn these code documentation agents to generate documentation diagrams, sequence diagrams, flow diagrams, dependency diagrams, and so on and so forth. So the documentation agents. And then finally we also have agents that help you review the code. So now you have written the code, you want to find out, does this code have security issues, or does this code have other issues, or can I change this code in various different forms? So there are code review agents. So those are our four primitives. And then in addition, we also have another category of agents, because we see a lot of movement in this space around modernizing legacy platforms and modernizing them to platforms like MuleSoft. So we have written migration agents which focus primarily on the migration task. Primarily, and migration is a fairly complex task. So if you think about the first four categories of tasks, those are lower level tasks, and migration is a higher level task. So we've written migration agents which help you accelerate those as well.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, we are really happy with the partnership, and we're already seeing the benefits of bringing this Curitech AI to a lot of our development projects. And especially I want to go a little more deeper into this migration agents, right? Customers are extremely cautious, especially for the legacy modernizations, right? These other legacy apps might have built maybe 10, 15, 20 years back. They are really afraid to touch. And how do you give the comfort with respect to the migration overall using Curitech?
So that's again a great question. Look, many times the incentive to move from these legacy platforms to something more modern is just because this legacy platform is going to end of life. Otherwise, things are working, but it's going to end of life. Or there are certain new features that are coming for the more modern needs, and those are lacking in legacy and stuff like that. So eventually people have to move, but because things are working, they're obviously a little scared of touching it, because any movement might introduce other issues and so on and so forth. So people are generally scared of two things. First, they are scared of, I don't want to break something which is not broken. So there's this risk element, and especially because some of these things have been written over the years, and people who have written it are no longer there in the company, and so no people don't even understand like what is happening in, under the covers. And the second thing that they're scared of is, okay, this migration helps me future proof myself, but it really doesn't add anything else. So I want to get it done as quickly as possible with as minimum cost as possible. Those are the two things that people really think about. And if you think about this, AI is a great tool to help accelerate this. So how we help is, for example, we have written agents which can go into legacy code and help you understand that code, help you document that code. So even if you don't have people who understand that code, our agents can go in and create those documentation. It can help you answer questions. Like your team, for example, is doing these migrations. They use these agents to figure out, okay, I'm a little confused about this particular area of how it is handled in the source code. They can ask those agents and so on and so forth. Then from these documents that are created, we can then feed it to our agents to generate code, and all the flow code in MuleSoft, for example. Flow code, data transformation scripts. So now the developer can go from 0 to 1 quickly, and then really spend the time in finessing it. Because this is done from an agent, you also take out the element of, so not only do you get the speed, but you also take out the element of risk substantially, because if you look at the documentation that is created, and if that is good, then these agents will produce the right code. And then some finessing obviously is needed by the developer. By breaking down this problem of, hey, first let's understand the source, build agents for understanding the source, build agents to actually build the documentation, and the agents then to do the build. And part of the build is coding, part of the build is testing, and so on and so forth. We are able to give the tools and primitives to people who are doing the migrations to be very confident that when things move, they will move well. There won't be things left behind in terms of movement, as long as the spec is as good. And B, they are able to do this in half the time and half the cost. And Both those are, big objections, and people think about, they want to modernize, they have to modernize, they know they have to modernize, but they
Yes,
keep kicking this can down the road because they're always afraid. And those two things can be taken care of from the AI and the agents that we built.
that's great. Especially one thing that stands out for me is interaction with the code, right? So just a few years back, getting a documentation out of a code itself is a big deal.
Yeah.
Like if you have a full documentation for entire our code base, that itself is like a big
Many weeks,
achievement.
many weeks you would take to build that.
Achievement, right? It's itself is a big achievement. Now we are talking about interaction with the code, whether
Yeah,
this
yeah.
business scenario is covered. That's a next level of interaction. What we are seeing with
Yeah, the
respect.
example that you gave is very pertinent. Just documentation of the code, it would take weeks and months to develop. Now you can turn this agent and you can get a lot of that done in minutes and minutes or hours. And
Yeah,
then you can,
even
just
and you
do
can
that.
ask questions to
You
it.
can ask questions and then you can ask questions. It's not just like a stale document. You can actually ask, hey, I'm just interested in this part. What is happening there? You can ask that. So it's pretty transformative.
My next question is, what kind of real world impact are you seeing so far with respect to these your code, your agents, and also with the overall MuleSoft development?
Yeah, so we are seeing a few things, both on the project side, in terms of project execution, in terms of taking out the risk from the project, in terms of how quickly that can be delivered, as well as bottoms up from the developers. We are seeing a lot of feedback around our agents. So let me talk first about the developers, and then I'll talk about the projects themselves. So on the developers, we have these agents, and any person can go and take a free trial. And now thousands of developers, MuleSoft developers, have tried these agents, and we, without fail, kind of, get sometimes we get LinkedIn messages, sometimes we get like email messages and stuff, basically saying how much time and effort these agents have saved. For example, one developer said this thing would take me 3 hours to do. Now it takes a minute. And he was specifically talking about a complex data weave that he had to write to get that completely right. From looking at the input and output would take him hours. And now, it takes minutes. So that is the level of transformative tools that we can put in the hands of the developers and really empower them. And when you take care of that base, it automatically builds towards accelerating projects and accelerating the delivery. For example, we had one customer who was doing a modernization of a platform, and they were operating under very strict timelines. I think their goal was to finish it in 6 months. They used our agents. The coding part was initially 9 weeks, it came down to a week. And the entire delivery time went from 6 months to 3 months. And they were very happy after that. They're saying that, okay, so this level of impact you can drive because you have taken care of the needs of the developers and accelerating their tasks. And that's the level of impact that AI can do. And that's where we have designed our agents and focus our energies on.
That's really great, Ashish. One question often people ask us, right, when we try to present this customized LLMs or agents for these specific use cases, is right. Then they will start talking about general LLMs available, right? So open a ChatGPT or Claude or other publicly available LLMs. They also able to generate some level of code, right?
Yes.
Even Einstein AI from Salesforce. So many AIs can able to generate some level of code. How does Curitech stand out when compared to those type of generic agents?
Yeah. So this is also a great question. As I mentioned previously, right? When you call LLMs, they are using their general knowledge. They've been trained on data which is publicly available. So they know extremely well of how to write to Python code. They know very well of how to write Java code and all that kind of stuff. So they're very good at that, and they've been trained on that. Now all this works out fine, but once you go to a platform, say like MuleSoft, which is very different. There's not too much public data around it. The nuances of that platform is different. Data Weave is a completely different language. The flow code, the XML code that has been generated from MuleSoft is completely different. Invariably, these using ChatGPT or Claude or all the stuff, invariably it creates mistakes in the code. It always happens. So what does the developer do? Developer says, I'll put this code, and again, then because there are mistakes in the code, By definition, these become like co-pilots and assistants. So developer has to give the code, takes the code, has to fix it and say, hey, you made a mistake here, you have made a mistake here, you made a mistake here, keep fixing it. Lot of iteration. So invariably these can work only as assistants. But when you go towards a full agent, which can where you can give a design spec and it creates a full repository for you with the dependencies, with the flow code, with the data weave scripts, transformations, all of that. If it has to do that, and it can take time to do that, it won't be as fast as calling an LLM call. But if it has to do that with a high degree of accuracy, then you got to fine tune on this. These agents really have to understand the syntax. These agents really have to understand the patterns. These really agents really have to understand the vernacular for MuleSoft. These agents have to use specific tools that are used in case of MuleSoft, which the generic coding agents don't have. So that is the difference. That is where we add a lot of value. And for the developer, it basically means that they can give a task and it gets done without intervention or very minimal intervention. And they can run 10 different tasks at the same time in the back while they go do something else or grab coffee and come back, and now 10 code bases are ready for you. With ChatGPT or Claude and all that kind of stuff, you're basically stuck with one task and you have to do this repeated stuff. So level of automation that you can have with agents is much higher. But with that, to drive accuracy for that, special things have to be done, which can't be just done by the generic agents.
Okay. I can think of something like a general software developer versus a MuleSoft developer, or a
Yes.
MuleSoft architect versus a general architect, right? So
Yes.
being the specialized architect, it's always have the nose and house of exactly how this works. So it will
Yes.
fast track the things get done than going through too many iterations working with the general developers.
Yes. So you can think of like we have, the general LLMs are like your software development architect or software development, code. And then we have given it a crash course in MuleSoft certification to create these other agents which can now do a lot of, MuleSoft development. That's basically how you can think about it. But that's exactly the right way to look at it.
Okay, great. It's very exciting. So, but all these exciting things, right, whenever we hear about them, is good when we hear from a Silicon Valley companies like you. But when it comes to enterprises and adoption, there is always a big, very big challenge, right? Some of them, if it's a West Coast or tech related companies, they are very easy to adapt these new technologies. If it's a more like a traditional manufacturing company or those type of companies which are not very pro or tech oriented companies, it's very difficult for them to adapt these technologies. How are you seeing it? What are the kind of challenges you are facing currently?
So that's absolutely spot on. I think people, especially outside the Silicon Valley, outside the cocoon or the echo chamber, people are still trying to grapple with AI itself. How to use AI, how to use it safely, what can it do? People are still getting educated on what can it do, what can be applied for. So those things are there, and I think a lot of education is happening. We are educating, a lot of AI companies are educating, a lot of use cases and case studies are coming out, which light the ideas in these companies and say, okay, there are better ways of doing things. But what we have seen, especially on the software development side, is that as happens with when you get a new tool, the old way of doing things have to slightly change. Maybe sometimes they have to dramatically change, but here in this case, I'm saying you have to make some slight modifications for how let's say if you're doing software development. Old way of doing things was I get a spec, I open up my IDE, I start coding, I do small code, try to test it out and build, then I go do my unit tests. Or sometimes people say test driven development, I'll do unit tests first and then I'll do all these things and so on and so forth. So that was the old way of doing things. Now you have AI. So instead of having this reaction of a new project, hey, let me hook up an AI, let me hook up my IDE and start building. People have to reorient, saying that, hey, let me just ask the AI to do this stuff first. So now, software developers have to understand a little bit of how to prompt the AI. That is a new skill that they have to develop. But if they develop that skill, they can go 100x faster, 10 to 100x faster. So now, when we go into when we go into our customers and stuff like that, early on and we have tried to, really simplify it by, making the interfaces very simple. But early on, they are keen of, hey, I want to achieve this particular thing. How do I achieve it with you? What do I prompt? What do I tell the AI? And so on and so forth. So if you just step back, this is basically what is happening with the general AI adoption, not just specifically coding agents. First, people are trying to understand how do you, what this AI is capable of. Second, they are trying to map what they are trying to do of how to give those instructions to the AI and stuff like that. So that is a normal way of how new technologies sort of percolate. I would say this though, that the speed with which AI is getting adopted is not something that I've seen before. Maybe when the web came about, similar sort of things happened, but this is at a much bigger and faster scale than what happened in, say, the late 90s or early 2000s. So the speed of adoption, and especially in enterprise adoption, the speed is huge. So there is desire, but there are these little bit of retooling, little bit of understanding, little bit of knowledge that has to be imparted, and that's what we face with, and we try to educate our clients around how to use these agents for coding.
Yeah, definitely. We are also seeing a lot of interest from the companies. At least from 6 months back, there was a question security constraints and all that. Right now, people are asking is we are already started using at some parts of the organization. I'm sure they might have already figured it out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Now you're right. It used to be last year it was, is it secure? I don't want to send my data, all that kind of stuff. Now it is, what can it do? How can I get myself trained to make it do what it can do? And things like that. So, absolutely right.
You recently attended this Mule Dreaming event in Canada, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, can you share something about it? How did it go, and what is your experience?
Yeah,
Any takeaways?
yeah. It was an event organized by the MuleSoft and Salesforce teams, and it was a non-Silicon Valley crowd, as you can imagine. So there were a lot of good companies, large enterprises, and practitioners. A lot of people who are building using Salesforce and using MuleSoft. They were in attendance, and it was a great conference, a lot of good ideas. But one particular thing that, for me at least, coming from that conference was agents, 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 and agents. So everybody was talking about agents, everybody was talking about agent force, um, and there was genuine interest and genuine curiosity from many of the enterprises in the audience of how to adopt those things and how to build for those things. So I think that's going to be the next big use case for integrations also. How to build these agents, because these agents need a lot of integrations and plumbing to happen underneath. And for me, I got to see that it's not just in the valley that people are talking agents, but even there was a lot of interest. And of course, Montreal is a great city, great people, and got to making some new friends there.
Great to hear that. Where can people learn more and try out the Curitech?
So they can go to our website, curitech.ai. So Curitech is one word, .ai. And there they can look at our products. There's a lot of documentation about the products. They can look at our demos. There are click-through demos. They can, quickly get a feel of, even without doing anything, they can get a feel of what the product is about. They can look at our security posture, what we do on security. We are SOC 2 compliant, so a lot of large enterprises can use it. They can also do a test drive of one of our agents, the DataView agent, very easily. They can also start a free trial, sign up for a free trial where they can try all the agents in all their glory and all their capabilities. They can try all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of information there, and then they can also read our blogs as to how these agents can be transformative, what we have seen from other clients that we have dealt with or worked with, and what are the new paradigms and the new way of doing things that are emerging. They can also read a lot about that as well.
That's great. I think I asked most of the things. Is there anything else, final message or thoughts you want to share it across, which I missed, Ashish?
No, I think this has been great. What I can just leave with a parting message is that, I get actually one question people ask about is, what is the future of integrations? Where is it headed to? And I just wanted to build on what I said about Montreal. And this is a very simple thing that people can hold in their mind. When people think about AI and agents and the world changing, all that kind of stuff, If you think about it, the agents have two capabilities. One is to reason. I have some task to do. How do I break it down into many subtasks? And the second is to take an action. So for that task, how to take an action. For example, an agent can decide that an order has to be issued in an enterprise setting. Something happened because of which an order has to be issued, but the action is to, put that order, issue that order.
Mm-hmm.
The action is a huge place where integrations work. So integrations, if at all, are going to get even more relevant as more people build agents, because previously we used to build actions for humans to do. Now we are building these actions which are integrations for agents to do. So now agents will need a lot more actions than humans because they can do a lot of nuanced things and they can move faster than humans. So if at all, I think the future of integration is going to be even brighter, and and I think people would need 10 to 100x more integrations to be built, and that's where AI can
That's right.
really help accelerate all that stuff and be transformative as we face more agent oriented world, both in the consumer world as well as in the enterprises.
Yeah, that's a great message, Ashish. I think I echo with you. I just spoke to Niket from MuleSoft in the last episode. He was also mentioning the something similar, that when the web came, integrations has increased. When the cloud came, integrations has increased by 3x or 4x.
Yes.
Now after the SaaS came, and then the now Agentic is coming, but it's all coming as a new applications and new agents. And Rupesh mentioned that there could be like a millions of agents, and every organization has like a thousands of apps. We are talking about a 10,000 or even hundreds of thousands of agents in an organization. Definitely integration becomes a much critical role plays in making sure that all these guys are orchestrated to get the tasks done.
Yeah, and now if the scale of number of integrations is going to go 100x, then you have to build them faster, and that's where the AI can help.
Thank you so much, Ashish, for coming to the podcast. Great pleasure talking to you.
Same here, Ajay. Thanks for having me, and it was a great conversation.
Thank you, guys.
That's a wrap on today's episode. Huge thanks to Ashish for joining us and giving us a look at the future of integration development. Until next time, stay curious and keep building smarter.